Now we're finally ready to start the show and tell part of the program. So my apologies. I apparently am the one that likes to stand up here and talk the most. So I'm going to go first because I can. I have the microphone already. So last year at our show and tell, Victoria approached me and she said, would you be interested in having a display case in the museum? And I was like, sure. So I thought it was going to be one of the little ones in here, but after some remodeling and renovation, she pulled out a rather large display case. And since we don't yet have our own place to display things, this was the perfect opportunity to show some of these things that members, friends, and families have been donating over the years. And we've been thoughtfully collecting, we just haven't had a place to show them. So although we hope our own place is in the near future, we wanted to give people a chance to see the items that we have on display. So over the summer I came in, Victoria and Leanne gave me their expert advice and kind words on how things could look. And so it's my first display, so be kind. But if you've donated items, you might see something you donated in there. Or after tonight's program, if you're comfortable, if you brought something, we've left the other side that if you want to leave your item, there are doors that go over it and lock. You can leave your item on display and we'll put a little placard with it so that you can be part of that exhibit. So I tried to create themed shelves. When you go out there, again, grab a treat and look at it afterwards. So the top shelf represents the 4 dedicated high schools of Attleboro. So the 1881 High School on Bank Street, which is now demolished, the County Street High School, which thankfully has recently been saved, the Rathbun Willard site, the 1962 high school that was now demolished when they flip-flopped, the new high school on Rathbun Willard that opened in 2022. So that's a top shelf. The second shelf is dedicated to Attleboro anniversaries. So we celebrate 2 anniversaries in town. So first the incorporation of the town in 1694, and then eventually as a city in 1914. And Attleboro loves to throw a good party, so we've got knickknacks and programs and all sorts of commemorative stuff over the last 300 years that are on display in that second shelf. And then in the bottom shelf, a little bit more of a hodgepodge, but it's more about the variety of pastimes that people used to enjoy. So most of them are easily recognizable today as they are in their historic form. We've got baseball and soda and fraternal groups and a little virtual travel. But most importantly, while you're out there looking at the items, notice the placards and who donated the items. So these are the people and families that wanted to make sure that those items were preserved for Attleboro history. So a special thanks to Rhett Butler, Helen Carpenter, David Downs, R. Scar Erickson, Bill and Ruth Nerney, Roberta Todd, and Barbara Walker, or the families of those people. After they passed, they wanted to make sure that items were donated in their names. So we appreciate all of them. Okay, I'm going to give up the microphone a little bit. I do have another show and tell item, but I would love to give someone else a chance to talk. So I don't know, does anyone want to volunteer to come first? I feel like all right, come on down. So the mic is here if you want to show David what you have, or I can hold it, I can van it for you. We don't have the camera to project.
It won't take long.
All right, you go for it.
This morning, I gave blood. And I've been drinking an awful lot of water, so I'll have to go to the bathroom a couple times during the meeting. But I'm really happy I was able to do that over at the market. So it's good to be able to do things like that. And I got a few. So I just want to let you know I was able to do that. And I also wanted some cookies.
Next, I know we had a few people. Come on down. Okay. The easiest way to get up here is, do you need me to help Vanna, or are you good?
Yeah, I just want to scratch that.
Oh, it's just plexi.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Here.
Afternoon, everybody. My name is Cindy Lancaster, and I have the privilege of being here with my mom, who she gave us the house that we're currently living in, and it was her childhood home. Her parents bought it in the 1940s. It included a little farmhouse, a huge barn, 2-car garage, 27 acres, a John Deere tractor, and some farm animals, and they got it for $4,000. They were 2 factory workers from Haverhill and Lynn area who relocated to the Attleboro area when my grandfather took on a Cushman bakery delivery position. And that's what brought them to Attleboro. And they had been renting for a while when my grandmother was looking in the newspaper and saw an ad for a rambling 7-room farmhouse. Those were like rooms this big. It's the cutest little button house. And I put a little booklet together of the restoration that we've done on it. Starting with the work that my mom had done back in the early 2000s and over the years, and we picked it up when she gave it to us in 2018. And when I was in the basement, I found some old bookshelves, like homemade like shelves, and on it were lots of canning jars and 2 milk bottles. And they still had milk solids in them. All the water obviously had evaporated. And when I looked at them more closely, the cardboard cover on the top said Klaus Johnson, and the bottle says Bliss Brothers. So through Ancestry.com, I did a little bit of research and found out that Klaus and Clara Johnson had emigrated from Sweden. Their daughter married Nils Larsen, who's related to the Larsen Manufacturing. Dan Larsen had that presentation that was on Facebook that I saw. He's our neighbor. So I called him and I said, would you know anything, because I did a little bit of research, would you know anything about any living relatives? I had seen Stanley and Ruth Larsen through Ancestry.com, and he said, Stan Larsen is my cousin. And he's still alive, and he's in southern Rhode Island. So because I had 2 milk bottles, I invited Stan Larsen and his wife to our home. I have a picture of him. He's the sweetest man. I'm seeing him again this month. We've become good friends. And I have a picture of him standing in front of a corner hutch holding his, I let him pick between the 2 milk bottles. I said, it's your grandfather. You pick. You get one, I get one. One will stay with the house, and one belongs with your family. That's your grandfather's. And he picked one, I have one, and this is a sweet picture of him holding his milk bottle, which he says prominently displayed on his mantle. Then he provided me with a gift, which I didn't expect, which were lots of different pictures, one of which is a picture of Nils Larsen in his dairy delivery truck. That says Nils Larsen Dairy. They lived in the same farmhouse that his parent, the Klaus Johnsons, did. His father-in-law went, and that house went to his daughter, who married Nils, and then it went to my grandparents. But anyway, I thought that was a cool connection with Nils Larsen on there. But that says Klaus Johnson, Wilmarth Street Dairy on it, so they changed the name. And then he gave me a baby picture of himself in front of that same corner hutch where I have him holding the milk bottle. There's a picture of him with his grandfather, Klaus Johnson, standing right behind him in front of the same corner hutch. That still stands today in the farmhouse. So that is my show and tell. Sorry, we've also found the milking stool.
How did the milk get in a Bliss? Did he sell milk to Bliss Brothers?
That's what I'm assuming. Do you want me to go to the mic? Okay.
So I know Bliss had their own farm in their house.
Yeah, I will defer to Bliss on that. I don't know, but the bottle does say Bliss, and it was sealed, not super well because it evaporated. The milk solids were still in it. And I know that my grandparents told me that it was a dairy farm when they took it over. They were 2 city kids. They weren't going to do dairy farming. But their next door neighbor, Eddie Lindbergh, was very helpful to them in transitioning from like city life to country life. And so my grandfather raised heifers, right, Mom? Heifers, yep. And they both continued. So Gramp was in Cushman delivery, but he raised heifers on the land. And as two city kids, they raised pigs. They had a couple horses, chickens, goats. Okay, I know about the goats. And they also had, they sold eggs at the end of the driveway, and I still have their egg scale, which I was gonna bring, but I'm like, they said one item, so I'm already bringing several, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And feel free to look through the book, it's really cute and lovely.
Come on up, Dale, I see you, you're ready with that. I'm gonna just, this way, Dave. Our prime spot.
My name is Dale Broadbent, and what I've got here has a distinct and unique relationship to the city of Attleboro. This is what was very popular in the mid-19th century. It's called a nosegay, and it was carried quite often by brides on their wedding day. And it had the unique ability to freestand. And this particular one has a connection to Attleboro. Some of you may know that the first mayor of Attleboro was Harold Sweet. That belonged to his grandmother on her wedding day. Her name was Charlotte Wheelwright. Her initials are engraved on it. And she was married in June of 1854. And she married, oh no wait, she was my grandfather's grandmother. She's my second great-grandmother. You may recognize the name. A few months ago, you may have been at a meeting here where you heard about Charlie Hayward. He was my grandfather. His father was Walter Hayward. His father was Charles Hayward. And Charles Hayward married Charlotte Wheelwright on that day. So this nosegay was Harold Sweet's grandmother's item that she carried on her wedding day.
What's it called?
It's also called a tussy mussy.
Yeah, nosegay is the flowers that they put into it. It's a tussy mussy. Tussy? Mussy, yeah.
And if you look at it very carefully, it's sterling silver, and it's very lacy. The workmanship on it is amazing.
Was it made in one of the factories in Attleboro?
I can only assume.
Artisan? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I can only assume.
No mark that you could find?
No.
No. She got married in Boston though, so we don't know why, because he was,
He was originally from Attleboro.
right. And I thought the Wheelwrights were from North Attleboro. I could be wrong on that, I don't know. So, anyways.
Okay, next? All right, what's going on?
This is from maybe about 5 years ago. We were taking items from the what's the place called?
Nerdy House? Not be Crafter?
The Nobby Crafters over on North Main Street. And this was in a pile of stuff that we took, and nobody can figure out what it is. It's
Somebody thought it was a chair, but it's very uncomfortable. It's all painted, there's no open area on it. This doesn't, this goes off of there. Either way, nothing, we have no idea what it is. Looking for somebody.
Does it fold?
It does not fold.
It doesn't fold.
Does
Changes
it
shape
come
a
for
little,
holding
doesn't it?
a person with gout, who got gouty foot?
No idea.
Is it a book, a book rest? I mean, like, to hold a book, to read books? No?
Oh,
It
it
does
fold.
yes.
Fold.
That's fold.
It does fold.
But it's,
A large
Child, for a child?
A form of a chair,
Yeah.
where you literally sat
a
on the
beach
ground.
chair or something like that.
People back then, didn't have the comforts that we have. That would have been convenient to bring maybe to the beach and sit on it and have.
works for me. I don't know.
I got one exactly like that, but it's made out of canvas and aluminum. But it's exactly like that. It folds up, and it's meant to be down low.
Okay, I guess it's a chair.
Nice
Very
chair.
uncomfortable.
Thank you.
All right.
Mystery solved.
I don't know. I think someone should sit in it before they say it. Very small and very uncomfortable. Did you bring some for us? Anyone else have some treats? Dave's got some, we've got, all right, Bob's got something. Marion's gonna go next, and then we'll take turns. How's our time? It's 7:00. Great. Do you need help?
Bag full of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that my thing has nothing to do with Attleboro. But I talk enough about Attleboro. But anyway, but it's to do with my family, and I'm actually from Mansfield. People don't think I'm from Mansfield, but anyway. My great-grandfather was George Grover, and his son was William E. Grover. And they were both basket makers, and I lived on the land where they had their farm and they did the basket making. And my son still lives there today. He's the 6th generation to live on that land. So this is one of George Grover's baskets, and he made them as a business. I have his accountant books that talks about how many baskets, how many dozen baskets he made for a certain person, and they may have just given him so many ears of corn or something like that, or bales of hay. And then at the bottom on his account book, it would just say settled instead of writing paid. And he did a lot of bartering back and forth like that with his baskets, but he also sold the baskets. And these are the basket branding irons that they used to sign the baskets with. This one says GG for George Grover, and then this was his son, W.E. Grover, William. And they branded the baskets. And I grew up with a lot of baskets at my house because my father had them. And I said to my father, well, if those are basket branding irons, why isn't the brand on our baskets? And my father said, because he only branded the ones that he sold out of the farm. And we only got the ones that were at the farm where the family lived. They wouldn't have branded their own. So that made perfect sense. So anyway, this is a picture of William E. Grover with all of his baskets. I don't know if you can all see it from there. But they were big ones. This is just a little one, but these were huge. And then this is a picture of the basket wagon that my Uncle John used to take around to deliver all of the baskets. And you can see it's just an open wagon with the baskets all hanging off of it. And if you look real close, up here under a tree, you can see where he and his friend that were making the deliveries had stopped to eat their picnic lunch. So anyway, so I decided that if all this basket making was in my blood, maybe I should weave baskets. So I started weaving baskets. And I ended up doing a lot of woven chair seats and things like that. This is one of my baskets that I did. And after a while of doing this weaving, I now have deformed thumbs because you have to push them all the time with your thumbs, and so that's why I stopped doing it. But the best part of this whole story is, a few years ago, quite a few years ago. When my son was in his 30s, my son makes baskets, and this is one of his, and this is a Nantucket basket, and this is the real hard kind, yeah. So that's my basket story. Any questions?
Let's just get a test.
Dave or Bob, you wanna come down?
I was here last year and gave a talk on collecting Attleboro postcards. And that's where Charlie Haywood's name came up. But I also collect milk bottles. I probably have milk bottles from over 200 dairies in Attleboro. And I have bottles from Klaus Johnson and bottles from Nils Larson. So they did bottle their own milk with their own bottles that had their names on it. It's likely that probably in the 30s, the state made laws that you had to either homogenize the milk, which caused them to have to purchase equipment that was very expensive. So a lot of farmers at that time decided to get out of the bottling business and just sell their milk to a larger processor like Bliss or something like that. So that's more than likely what happened, but they may have still delivered their own route and used their own caps on Bliss's bottles. That'd be my guess, maybe. But anyways, today in my mail, I got an article, a newspaper article from a friend who was cleaning out his storage and was recycling things. But he came across this article. It was in his collection because he's from Rhode Island, and this was about a shoe shine at the Rhode Island State House, who was there on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays shining shoes for all the representatives in the State House. But he has an Attleboro connection. His name was, let's see, his name is Rick Slack. And he says, when he's not shining shoes at the State House, Slack apprentices as a cobbler at Footworks in Attleboro. So, just thought that was interesting that it arrived in today's mail. And something that I picked up fairly recently. This is a form of advertisement that Mossberg sent out in October of 1893, announcing, we desire to call attention to recent changes in our location and facilities, having united our Attleboro and North Attleboro plants, and also adding to them by the purchase of additional machinery. We now occupy a new building with more than double our former floor space, and it was located at Union and Mill Streets. So I had no idea that Mossberg had an operation in North Attleboro. I live in North Attleboro, so that's why it had some interest to me. So I'll leave this up here as well. It was actually sent through the mail, has a stamp on it. It was a folded advertisement that was sent in the mail in 1893.
Are they metal clasps? Is that what they?
No, it's paper, and it has a little slot that.
Very cool.
Well, I'm Dave Downs. When I moved into our house on Oak Hill Avenue, the Roach Farm was still producing milk for Bliss Farm, for Bliss Dairy. So Bliss Dairy come by, pick up the milk, and then I guess process it or whatever. That farm went out of business because the farmer got to be allergic to cows. Believe it or not, so. And then his son took over, but at any rate. Okay, so I was glad to see Marion brought something from Mansfield, because I have something from another town also. But first of all, I'm David Downs. I don't know if I've mentioned that or not. Sometimes I don't bother because everyone knows my voice, on the phone, But anyway, so I was going to bring something tonight, but when I went to find it, I couldn't find it. And I've always missed these meetings. I don't know why. Either I couldn't come or whatever. So while I was looking for the item that I was going to bring this year, and I'll bring it next year, I found a couple of things. And the date was, and I get it, well, okay, so for years, I used to listen to the radio to go to sleep. And my wife would come up and get into bed. After 10 years, she got upset at me because she'd get interested in whatever was on the radio, and then she couldn't sleep. So I started to have to use an earphone, or earplugs, not earplugs. Yeah, okay, so she could go to sleep. So anyways, what happens is I wake up almost all the time, can't get back to sleep, and instead of wasting my time, just lying there trying to get to sleep, I turn on the radio, put it in my ear, and listen to NPR. Well, anyway, so I can remember one late night, and I was half asleep, half awake, when I heard about the Columbia. There's something had been seen over Texas, and the shuttle Columbia coming back into the atmosphere burnt up, and they're going west to east. Well, that morning, when I got up, I went out into my backyard, and on my sidewalk was this little black thing, and it had melted the snow around it. And I didn't know if it was the sun that had heated up a piece of coal or something that I didn't know, and it melted the snow or not, but I picked it up with a paper towel and was very careful not to touch it because I thought it was a meteorite. And I think it is a meteorite. For those of you that are sitting on the couch watching this here, I'll show you up close. See, I'll get it all focused for you, Dave. But anyway, so I preserved it the best I could. Now, this was back in 2003, February 1st, 2003. And I think of about 5 years ago or so, I found it down in my basement. I put it in a box. I took all these measurements and pictures and had a ruler beside of it before I picked up everything. And so I really preserved it. And then 5 years ago, I needed more room, so I put it out in my shed. And so tonight I found it. The mice they'd eaten all the pictures and messed this up, so I had to wash it off. So it's no longer pristine. But I think it is a meteorite that landed in Attleboro on Oak Hill Avenue in 2003. So I thought that was historical. Who knows, that could be worth a lot of money. That's why I saved it, but I've never gone to the trouble of finding out. Okay, the next thing is, I've collected some bricks from buildings here in town. I know I got a part of the gutter from Telequega Park, which became the county hospital and eventually the Baptist church down there on Oak Hill Avenue. And I got a brick from the factory that they ripped down in order to build the CVS out on Main Street. And I got a brick from what was a trolley barn towards the end of Oak Hill Avenue, fairly near where the Telequega Park was, the Baptist church is now. So when I got the bricks, I brought them and put them in my yard. But I've got a bunch of cinder blocks I've had since I was in high school. They come in handy. And the same with the bricks. So over the years, it's been 20 years, I have no idea which brick is which anymore. So there's no sense in me trying to bring it and show it off as belonging to that factory or whatever. But I do have a brick here from the very weak connection is that Attleboro at one time was part of Rehoboth. So anyways, there's a fellow down there called Darius Goff. And Darius Goff grew up in Rehoboth, and down there they've got the Palmer River. So they had a lot of mills on the Palmer River. And so his father had a mill. He grew up working in the mill. He eventually built a mill in Pawtucket that was the largest batting mill, cotton batting mill. It was the largest mill in the world. It was several acres big, and it was on Gough, they called it Gough Avenue or Gough Street after him, I guess. So it was built in 1847. And a couple other interesting things about him before I show you the brick. He donated his family house, land, and money to build a library for Rehoboth. And it burnt down 25 years later, and they rebuilt it again. But it's called Gough Hall. So if you ever go down to Rehoboth on Bay Road, Bay Street, that's Gough Hall. It was named after Darius. Darius was also a representative, I think, for Massachusetts. And although I never found it anywhere, I have a feeling that because he was a politician, he might have had something to do with tariffs, so that his factory got to be one of the biggest in the world. By having tariffs, nobody here in America could probably buy outside of America to get the batting. The cotton batting was used for padding in seats, like in trains and eventually in cars, in the old cars. So about, I don't know, it's 10 or 15 years ago, the whole factory burnt down. And so I went there and I saved several bricks. But this is I'll show these people at home also. There's some, you can tell from the soot on the corner. I just saved, I got several, but I saved this. Someday I'll try and give it to the Attleboro Museum down in Rehoboth, but they probably won't want it. I'm serious about that because you go to all these museums, you're never going to see a brick. I'm serious. That's one of my pet peeves. They always have the bed warmer with the long handle, to warm up the bed. But they don't have the bricks or the stones that a lot of people that didn't have money used to warm up their beds. But anyway, so this is kind of related to Attleboro if you want to. Okay, then the last thing is, it's something you're never going to see again in your life, and you've never seen it before. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I have another story to go with this, but I'm not going to tell it tonight. This is something that's very unusual. It's a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and it's so rare that I know you've never seen it. It's a picture of him when he was only 3 years old.
Did anyone else read something? Gary's got something. Come on down, Gary.
Your help, tell me what it is.
Here, I'll move Abe for you. That's a prestigious.
Yeah, baby picture. To David's story about the wadding mill, it became Union wadding, and it made wadding for the cannons for the Civil War. We used to do their rigging, move machinery in and out. Fascinating factory. And yes, it burned. They were renovating, and somebody did something and left it, and it went up in a fiery storm. That was the end of that. They knocked it down. So I brought this contraption that I recovered from some of the stuff at the Knobby Crafters, I believe. I don't know what it does, but it's a mechanical contraption. It has pins that you can set to strike, and I think it's for jewelry, but somebody has to feed it, somebody has to turn it, and it's all like a sewing machine, it's just mechanical marbles, I call them. All these little moving parts that make something come out of it. So I just wanted to bring something out of my hoarding collection that, you know, maybe somebody knows or somebody had worked with one. I don't think it's, you know, too old. I think it was 1850. Maybe somebody's around still. So these really fine pins that set in there to strike different pins.
Is it grinding that in?
No, it's a setting. It looks like it's a setting it,
Oh,
like maybe embossing.
What's it say on the front of it there, around there?
It says the Monarch Marking System Company, Dayton, Ohio. Marking system.
And this is the model JTM. So this is the hybrid. I had a smaller one, and it had an 1850 date on it. The patent dates from Dayton, Ohio. It doesn't give a year, just a bunch of numbers. So I thought somebody might have seen this in their working days and somewhere, and maybe
Any
help
hypotheses?
shed some light on it.
I Googled it and got a little bit of information here. So you're doing the same thing, yeah, I was thinking the same one, looks like that. That's a better picture, you can show that.
What's sticker marker? That one says, could it?
Yeah, that would make sense. A ticket for jewelry, for putting a tab sticker on jewelry. You know how they fold over and they pass it through maybe? There, I did get some of these different designs, and they had small stickers that you feed through, but it was more modern. This with the pins and the mechanism, and it looks like they fall in to the little cup. So I thought this was more interesting to see if anybody had any insight. But it really can't top the 3-year-old Abraham Lincoln. So I just wanted to share that out of my hoarding collection.
I have one more with me. Will be a good ending, except, did someone walk away with my folder? Did I walk away with my folder? I did. All right. This one is mostly for Jerry, but it is one of the recent donations that we received. And it is a picture of Peter Thatcher Junior High School from the 1960s. So the junior high was originally built in, now I have to cheat, was originally built in 1948, and it was built by a group of architects called the Architects Collaborative. And one of its founding members was Walter Gropius, where's Jerry? There he is, who was one of the founders of the Bauhaus School as well. So it's an architectural movement. Now, he didn't directly work on the school, but the purpose of it was called TAC, the Architects Collaborative, was just that word collaborative. They had partners, and it wasn't one person working on a project. They collaborated. So he is one of the original 8 founders of this Architects Collaborative. So I'm sure he was involved in some way, he just wasn't the main architect. This picture is, apparently we had a big old boom in the 60s, and both South Attleboro Junior High School and Peter Thatcher Attleboro High School, Junior High School, were busting at the seams, and they were going to need to go into double sessions because the architectural work was behind schedule. Thatcher opened on time, South Attleboro did not, so they had different groups of kids coming in throughout the day. So this is from 1968, but it was donated by Kenneth Cabral, and I'm not sure if anyone knows him, but Ken was a teacher at Thatcher and then the principal there as well.
And this hung in his office for a while. He acquired it and took it home. And in some cleaning, he thought it should be donated back to Attleboro and to the society.
I had Mr. Cabral.
You had Mr. Cabral,
Yes,
all
I
right.
went to Peter Thatcher, and my mom was actually a teacher there.
Ah.
The picture of Peter Thatcher. Yeah, so my mom was a science teacher.
So thank you so much for coming tonight. I hope you enjoyed the night. We never know what's going to show up, and that's one of the things that makes this night special.